You've seen the video. Everybody has. A fellow standing in front of his brand new Barndominium, arms crossed, grinning at the camera. And the caption says, he built the whole thing for $100 a square foot, half what the stick-built house down the road cost. And a little voice in you said, wait, could I do that? But here's the honest answer. Nobody in those videos hands you straight. That number is real for the fellow who said it. And for you, standing where you're standing, it's missing about half the story. Today we're doing the math, dollar for dollar, catch for catch, so you know exactly when a barndo saves you real money and when it quietly doesn't. And I want to be clear right up front. I'm not here to talk you out of a barndo. Built right, for the right person, it's one of the smartest homes you can put up. And I'll show you exactly why before we're done. I'm just here to make sure you walk into that builder's meeting comparing the real number instead of the brochure number, because the folks who don't get burned aren't the lucky ones. They're the ones who already knew where the money hides before they ever sat down. So let's start with the one thing that actually makes a barndominium cheap, because once you understand this one thing, everything else of the video falls right into place. And you'll be able to read any barndo quote the way a builder reads it. A barndo is cheap for a single reason, and that reason is the shell. It's a pre-engineered steel frame or a post-frame build with big treated wood posts, and the whole skeleton shows up cut to length, punched, and ready to bolt together. Picture what that replaces. On a stick-built house, you got a framing crew on site for weeks, standing up wall after wall, one stud at a time, nailing, squaring, sheathing. That's a lot of skilled hours, and skilled hours are money. The barndo shell doesn't work that way. Those big columns go up, the rafters or trusses drop in, the metal skin goes on, and in a matter of days, you've got a weather-tight building standing where an empty slab used to be. A classic 40 by 60 barndo, that's 2,400 square feet, gets dried in that fast. Fewer trades on the job, fewer weeks of everybody's wages on your tab. That speed, all by itself, is a real chunk of the savings. Then there's the inside, and this is where the design really earns its keep, because those big steel columns or wood posts carry the entire weight of the roof. You won't find a single interior load-bearing wall anywhere in the building. None. Every wall inside is just a partition, there to make a room, not to hold anything up. Fewer walls to frame, fewer walls to finish, and a wide-open floor plan you can carve up however you please, or leave wide open if that's your taste. On top of all that, the concrete slab you're standing on is often the finished floor too. Grind it, stain it, seal it, and you've skipped an entire flooring bill that a stick-built house would hand you without blinking. So there it is, the whole structural advantage in one breath. A fast shell, fewer framing trades, no interior support walls, and a slab that doubles as your floor. Burn that into your memory, because here comes the part the pretty videos always leave out. Every single upgrade that fights that simple rectangle throws away the exact thing that made the barndo cheap in the first place. You want a wraparound porch on 3 sides. You want a wing off the back for the in-laws, a lean-to off the side for the tractor, and a cut-up roofline with a couple of dormers so the place looks less like a barn and more like something off a magazine cover. I get it, I do. It looks wonderful in your head, but every one of those moves adds corners. And corners add framing hours. It adds roof valleys, and valleys are exactly where water goes hunting for a way in. Piece by piece, you've taken your simple, cheap box and turned it into a complicated, expensive building. A barndo with wraparound porches and a folded roof is really just a pricey custom house wearing a barn costume. The magic was always in the plain rectangle. Complicate the rectangle, and you spend the savings before the slab is even dry. Now, before we walk the actual dollars, one quick thing and then I'll get right back to the numbers, I promise. I'll give you the real figure on every piece of this, and I do it for one reason. The people who come out the far side of a build owning a home that fits them, paid off, and truly theirs, are the ones who walked in knowing more than the person selling to them. Everything I check before I trust a build, a bid, or a piece of land, all the catches nobody bothers to itemize, and what each state really runs you once you total it up, I put in one place: the Complete Cheap Living Field Edition. It's the first link down in the description if you want to get out ahead of this thing. I'll tell you more about it later. For right now, let's get into the math. And I want you to notice where these numbers are coming from, because none of this is my opinion. It's the builder's own data. The National Association of Home Builders puts conventional stick-built construction at around $153 a square foot. Barndos with a standard, sensible finish commonly lands somewhere around $80 to $120 a foot. In competitive markets, and multiple 2026 contractor cost guides written by the people actually pouring the slabs and hanging the steel keep landing on the same honest range for the savings. It lands at 15 to 30% against a comparable custom stick-built home. And in some markets and scopes, it stretches to 30 or 40, nowhere near the 50 the viral clips imply. That bigger number tends to come from social media, not from the people out there pouring slabs and hanging steel. And when a claim and a job site disagree that hard, I trust the folks holding the trowel every time. Here's a detail almost nobody puts in front of you. When the NAHB actually surveyed builders back in February of 2024, only about 7% of them said they'd put up a Barndominium in the past year. That's still a thin slice of the market, and it matters far more than it sounds, because it's the exact reason the financing and the appraisal get tricky later on. Hang on to that 7. And of the builders who did build one, right around 70% said it was a home combined with a big shop or garage under the same roof. Hang on to that 70 too, because it turns out to be the key to comparing these two buildings honestly. So let's walk both houses, dollar for dollar, the way you'd redo it yourself at the kitchen table with a legal pad. Start with where the Barndo genuinely wins, which is the structure. That steel shell, erected on your slab, runs roughly $20 to $50 a square foot, depending on size and where you are. The framing labor drops sharply, because there's simply so much less framing to do. The whole timeline shrinks, which means you're paying fewer weeks of wages to fewer crews. There's no interior load-bearing wall to build and finish, and the slab is quietly doing double duty as your floor. Every bit of that is real, defensible, money in your pocket saving, and it's the honest heart of why a Barndo can, and usually does, beat a stick built on price. If the story ended right there, the 50% crowd would be dead right. But the story doesn't end there, and this is the beat the brochure never shows you. The shell is the cheap part of any house. The expensive part is everything that goes inside it. The kitchen, the bathrooms, the plumbing runs, the electrical, the heating and cooling system, the flooring, the cabinets, the trim, the fixtures. That interior finish is the single biggest chunk of the cost in any home you build, steel or stick. And here's the fact that quietly ends the fantasy. It costs the same money inside a metal shell as it does inside a stud frame. Your plumber charges the same. Your electrician charges the same. A tile shower doesn't cost a nickel less because there's steel behind the wall instead of wood. If anything, a metal building needs a little more care on the inside, framing out the walls to run wire and pipe and hang drywall properly. The shell is where the Barndo saves you, and the finish is where those savings run out. And the finish is most of the whole bill. And that one fact hands you the single most useful move in this whole process, so write it down. When you go to price your own build, never compare a shell quote to a turnkey quote. That's the #1 mistake people make, and it's how folks end up $80,000 short halfway through the job. Get 2 numbers on paper. First, the shell, delivered and erected on your slab. Second, the full interior finish to the level you actually want to live in. Every trade, every fixture, spelled out plain. Add those two together and you've got the honest all-in cost of your barndo, and only then can you set it next to a real all-in, stick-built quote. And compare like for like. A good builder will hand you that breakdown without flinching and tell you straight what's in the price and what's left out. If a builder won't itemize it for you, well, that tells you something too. The whole game is comparing all-in against all-in. Never a bare frame against a finished home. If that's the honest arithmetic you wish those viral videos had handed you from the start, do me one small favor and tap subscribe. It's all real numbers on this channel, no hype, and every subscriber helps us reach the next person who's about to sign for a barndo off nothing but a brochure price. All right, now let me walk you through the catches, because this is where a genuine bargain can quietly slide into a break even if you're not watching. Catch number 1. Insulation is not optional, and it's not cheap. On a regular stud-framed house, you drop fluffy bats between the studs and move right along. You can't do that on a metal shell, because steel pulls heat and cold straight through itself, and it sweats. Warm inside air hits that cold metal skin in the winter, and you get condensation, actual water forming, and running down the inside of your building. Left alone, that rots and rusts and molds. The fix the builders use is closed-cell spray foam, sprayed directly onto the inside of the shell, and it works beautifully. It seals the whole envelope and stops the sweating cold. It also costs meaningfully more than the bats you'd have stuffed in a stud wall. So a real chunk of what you saved on that fast steel frame, you hand right back at the insulation stage. Nobody in the hype videos brings it up, because drywall and insulation just don't get views, even though you can't finish the building without them. Catch number 2. The heating and cooling system runs bigger, and so does the bill behind it. The very thing that makes a barndo feel so good the day you walk in. Those soaring ceilings and that big open volume is also a whole lot more air to heat in January and cool in August. More cubic feet means a larger, pricier system just to keep up, and a fatter utility bill every single month after you move in. It's the same trap as a big vaulted great room in any house. The feeling when you stand in it is wonderful. The load on the equipment is real and it's permanent. Size that system honestly at the start, with a contractor who's done open volume buildings, so it doesn't come back to bite you every summer for the next 20 years. Catch number 3, and this is the big one the hype videos never so much as whisper about. Financing and the appraisal. Remember that 7? That barndos are still just a small share of what gets built in this country. Here is precisely where it bites you. A lot of lenders still treat a barndo as a non-traditional structure, which means you're usually not walking in and getting a plain 30-year mortgage. You're getting a construction to permanent loan, one loan that funds the build in stages, called draws, as the work gets done, and then rolls over into your regular mortgage once the house passes final inspection. That part's manageable, but expect to put down more than you would on a standard house, often 20% or more, and closer to 25 or even 30% if you're buying the raw land and building on it at the same time. Then comes the appraisal, and the appraisal is the part that actually sinks deals. An appraiser sets your finished home's value by finding comparable sales nearby, recent homes like yours that sold for real money. In a subdivision full of stick-built houses, that's easy. There are comps on every street. Out on rural acreage, where your barndo might be the only one for 10 miles, there may be almost no comparable sales to point at, and a cautious appraiser can come back low, leaving you scrambling to cover the gap in cash. Now, there's real good news buried in this one. If your land sits in an eligible rural area and your household income fits the limits, roughly 115% of the local median, the USDA Section 502 program can finance a barndo with zero down, and a lot of the exact rural spots where barndos make the most sense actually qualify. But you have to line every bit of this up before you fall in love with a floor plan. And talk to a lender who's actually closed a barndo before, not the first bank that answers the phone. One more thing that quietly stacks the odds in your favor: a detailed, itemized cost breakdown and a licensed builder on the job. Your lender releases the money in draws against that breakdown as the work gets done. So the clearer and more professional it looks, the smoother the whole loan runs, and the less likely you are to hit a snag at draw time with a half-built house. Catch number 4. The land itself. Barndos live in the country, and raw country land is nowhere near ready for a house the day you buy it. Before a single post goes in the ground, you may be drilling a well, putting in a septic system, cutting and graveling a driveway that could run hundreds of feet, running power out from the road, and grading the whole site so it drains. That's not pocket change on a legal pad. On truly raw land, it commonly runs somewhere between $25,000 and $55,000, all in. And it can go higher if the well has to go down deep or the power line has a long way to travel. And before any of that, get a perk test on the ground so you know the soil will even take a septic system. Because a lot that fails perk is a lot you can't build on at any price. It's the same trap that catches any rural build, steal, or stick. But because barndos almost always sit out on acreage, it catches barndo buyers more often than anybody warns them. Price the dirt like it's part of the house, because it absolutely is part of the house. Now here's the honest apples to apples truth, and it's the fairest thing I can hand you in this whole video. Whether a barndo beats a stick built comes down to what you're actually comparing. A barndo with a shop or a couple of garage bays under the same roof almost always beats a stick built with that same shop space. And the reason is beautifully simple. The steel system that makes the barndo work is the identical system that makes the shop. You're putting up one structure, not two. So you're not paying twice for foundation, roof, and walls. That's exactly why 70% of the builders in that survey were putting up home plus shop barndos. It's where the whole design genuinely shines, and it's where the savings get real. But set a barndo against a same-size stick-built house with no shop at all, and it's a much closer call, one that swings on your region, your finish level, and whether you're willing to act as your own general contractor. So anytime somebody flashes a savings number at you, the very first question out of your mouth should be, all right, what exactly are we comparing here, and does it include a shop? And while we're being straight with each other, let's talk resale for a minute, because it's the question sitting right behind the build cost. For years, the knock on barndos was that they're hard to sell later. That's easing as they get more common, but the finish level is what really decides it. A well-finished barndo with good insulation, real cabinets, and durable materials holds its value and sells just fine. A bare bones, cut corners barndo is a harder sell, same as any cut corners house of any kind. And the durability actually works in your favor here. That metal roof and metal siding shrug off the weather that eats asphalt, shingles, and wood siding alive. So 15 years down the road, your barndo isn't wearing its age the way a builder-grade stick build often is. The two soft spots to plan around are the same. Two we already hit: thin appraisal comps out in rural areas, and a buyer or lender who's just unfamiliar with the type. Build it clean and simple, finish it properly, and the resale mostly takes care of itself. Which brings me right back to that fellow grinning in front of his barndo at $100 a square foot. And I want to be straight with you, because it would be the easiest thing in the world to make him the villain of this story. And he simply isn't one. Nobody in this whole business is lying to you. The kit companies advertise the shell price because the shell is what they sell you. That's their entire product. And it's an honest price for what it is. It's just not a finished house. The social media builder who hit 100 a foot almost certainly did hit it. And honestly, good for him. That's a real achievement. But he hit it as his own general contractor, swinging his own hammer on weekends and evenings, doing with his own two hands all the labor a builder would otherwise charge you for. Hand that same exact house to a builder to do turnkey, and the number climbs every single time. And the finished cost gets left out of the videos for the most boring reason there is. It's boring. Drywall, mud, and duct runs don't rack up views. Nobody schemed any of this up in a back room. That $100 number isn't dishonest at all. It just isn't yours yet. So your job here isn't detective work, and it isn't to catch anybody in a lie. You just need to know which number you're actually being shown before you trust it with your life savings. Let me talk to you plainly for a second, because you've seen enough real numbers now to know I'm not blowing smoke at you. Barndo or stick built? Either way, this is the most money most folks your age will ever spend at one time, and it's the easiest place in the world to get separated from it, one believable brochure number at a time. So, that's the whole reason I put together the complete Cheap Living Field Edition. It's 3 guides. The first is 50 catches hidden in cheap land listings, so the lot you set that barndo on doesn't quietly sink the project before you ever pour the slab. The second is 40 catches hidden in cheap houses, so you can tell an honest deal from a padded one, whether you build new or buy existing. And the third is the state-by-state cheap living notebook, because where you build decides close to a third of what the whole thing costs, taxes and all. Plus the worksheets you print out and carry right into the county office and the builder meeting. Bought separately, it'd run you about $45. Together, it's $29.99, and the worksheets are free in the bundle. Think of it as the cheapest insurance you'll ever buy on the biggest project of your life. Because one bad lot, or one brochure number you believed without checking, costs more than the whole collection 10 times over. It's linked down in the description. Now let me show you the best part, where the honest barndo and the smart forever home turn out to be the exact same house. Here's the good news that survives every last bit of the honest math. The barndo that actually saves you money is the same barndo that serves you best for the rest of your life. Think back to what we said makes one cheap. A big, simple, single-level rectangle under one clear-span roof. Now look at what that identical building hands an older body. No stairs to climb because the whole thing lives on one floor. No interior load-bearing walls, which means you can put a 36-inch doorway or a curbless, rolling shower anywhere you want it, the day you want it, without ever turning. Ask your builder to put solid backing behind the bathroom walls now, while it's open, and grab bars going easy in 20 years when you actually want them. A compact, durable metal roof and metal siding that outlast wood by decades. So there's far less for you or anybody else to be climbing up on and maintaining when you're 80. That metal roof can run 40 or 50 years before it needs any real attention, where an asphalt roof has somebody back up on a ladder every couple of decades. And a single-level open plan gives a walker or a wheelchair room to turn, which the cut-up floor plan never does. So go after the thing that makes a good bando good in the first place, which is plain simplicity. And you walk away with both prizes at once, the real savings today and the home that quietly takes care of you later. Go the other way, chasing the magazine cover with its wraparound porches and its folded roof lines, and here's what you've actually done. You've paid stick-built money for a metal building, and you've handed back the easy-to-age-in layout in the bargain. The honest barndo and the smart forever home turn out to be the very same rectangle. So tell me down in the comments, were you sold on the $100 a foot barndo when you first saw it? And now that you've walked through the real math with me, would you still build one? Be honest. I read every single one of these. And here's your next one, because it's the decision sitting right underneath everything we just talked about. The roof. There's a cheapest roof shape you can build, and there's one that quietly doubles your bill. And plenty of good, smart people pick the expensive one without ever knowing they had a choice to make. That's the next video, and it's waiting for you right now.